What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a look at some new Brobnar cards from Worlds Collide. You see, Brobnar's got a bit of a thing going on in Worlds Collide. It's got a bit of a theme, and the theme is that it wants to make you lose your Aember. Now let's be clear, right? Brobnar has never been the big Aember control card. Or I suppose I should say the big Aember control deck with the big Aember control cards. It would look on in envy while it saw Sanctum having Doorstep to Heaven, and Shadows having Too Much to Protect along with like a million other cards, and Logos having Effervescent Principle, but that's alright, because it's got some options now. And there are 5 cards in the set that make your opponent lose Aember, although to be fair, one of them isn't that new. It is Mega Groke. Now, Mega Groke is what happens if you get Groke's Brew in your deck. It takes what would have been a Groke and upgrades it to a Mega Groke. So it's just got 2 extra power. Rather than being 5 power, Mega Groke is now 7 power. But it's got the same skill whereby when you fight, your opponent loses an Aember. Now remember, we are talking fight skill here. That is to say, the fight skill only activates if your creature, your Mega Groke, is alive at the end of the turn. But the other thing that's really important to remember here is that you've gone from a 5 power creature to a 7 power creature, which means it's way more likely that you will in fact survive the fight. Well, that's quite nice then, isn't it? And then you get to make your opponent lose an Aember. No, it's not perfect, but it's a pretty nice start. How about Barn Razing? Barn Razing is an action card, and it reads, for the remainder of the turn, your opponent loses 1 Aember each time a friendly creature fights. And we've talked about this in many videos in the year since, almost a year, since Keyforge came out. Brobnar is the fighty house. They've never been particularly great at Aember rushing. They've not had cards like Full Moon. And they've never been particularly great at Aember control. We talked about that at the top of the video. But the one thing they've always been good at is fighting. They have the big, powerful, fighty creatures. They've got stuff like Narp, which comes in at an 8 power creature. And then, of course, we got Mega Narp, which comes in at a 10 power creature. That's pretty gosh darn good. They are the big fighty house. And this works beautifully. Now, as with all of this, it's really going to depend on exactly what kind of Brobnar deck you get. If you don't get the big fighty characters, if you don't get the big powerful ones, it might not work. But either way, you're going to be able to get rid of some Aember here. Now, this is one of those cards that could go wrong. What you don't want to do is cost your opponent 3 or 4 Aember while getting all of your creatures off the board, such that you cannot reap, cannot fight, etc. And the other thing is, this is making your opponent lose an Aember. It is not stealing, and that's a very important point. There are plenty of creatures out there, Dodger would be a nice example, whereby when you fight you steal an Aember. But you get one and your opponent loses one, so you get closer to forging, your opponent gets further away from forging, and they are really the 2 key ways to try and win in Keyforge. They're the 2 ingredients in your recipe for victory. But here your opponent's just losing Aember. And on the one hand, yay, they're losing Aember, they're further away from winning, go me. And on the other hand, I'm not actually any closer to winning, so you need to be careful. What you don't want to do is make your opponent lose, make your opponent lose, make your opponent lose, then they have a big Aember rushing turn, forge a key anyway despite your best efforts, and then you haven't forged yourself. I love this, but you are making sure that you're not gaining Aember from reaping, you are risking all of your creatures being destroyed in the fights, and you're not gaining any Aember doing so. How about Power of Fire? Now this is a 2-sided card, but it could work very nicely indeed. It is an action card, and when you play it you sacrifice a friendly creature. That's a bad thing. And then each player loses Aember equal to half that creature's power, rounding down the loss, and you gain a chain. So there's a lot of bad stuff going on here for you. You lose a creature, you gain a chain. Both of those are very bad things. However, you get to decide when this card gets played. It's up to you. It's your card. And the fact of the matter is, let's take something like Mega Narp, right? Mega Narp is probably the biggest boy we're looking at here. I mean, there's every chance you get like a Legacy Lollop the Titanic. Although, to be fair, right, Legacy Lollop the Titanic, you're still talking 5 Amber because it's 11 power rounded down, which still comes out as 5. So you're basically getting rid of 5 Amber. So what you do here is, firstly, you've got to sacrifice Mega Narp, which you might not want to do, because you're losing a 10 power creature. 10 power creatures are good. And you're gaining a chain. But your opponent and yourself are both losing 5 Amber. Clearly, if you've got 6 Amber and your opponent's got 2, that's a bad deal. But if your opponent's got 7 Amber and is about to forge a key, you take them from 7 down to 2. And not only are they not forging, but they're not actually that close to forging. And that's where Power of Fire comes in so beautifully. Yes, you've got to lose a big powerful creature, and yes, you've got to gain yourself a chain, but you're taking your opponent off of check, and it could be quite far off of check, and that's what you need. Cards that we mentioned earlier, like Doorstep to Heaven, like Effervescent Principle, the number one goal of cards like that is to take your opponent off of check such that they're not forging a key next turn. This does that. Hey, look, it's Overrun. An action card that gives you an Amber bonus and reads: if 3 or more enemy creatures have been destroyed this turn, your opponent loses 2 Amber. Okay, now we're rolling. Because it doesn't say destroyed while fighting, just destroyed. Any way you can go about destroying them, you're good, they're gone, and your opponent loses 2 Amber. And this I kind of like a bit more than the others we've looked at, because it's got fewer downsides. And alright, it's still leaning towards fighting, but you don't have to fight. Lava Ball deals 4 damage to a creature with 2 damage splash. So if you can use that to destroy 2 or 3 creatures, then that's going to basically get you there without having to worry about that. I mean, we've also got the big one of the new cards in the set. I love the big one. It is an artifact where, after a creature is played, you put a fuse counter on, and then when 10 or more are on there, you destroy each creature and artifact. So as long as you've done that, you can go ahead and drop Overrun, and then your opponent loses 2 Amber as well. My point is, this doesn't have to be fighting. You don't have to sacrifice any of your creatures. You don't have to put your creatures in harm's way. You don't have to accept any chains. You can just destroy creatures in any way, and then your opponent loses 2 Amber, and you gain an Amber by playing it. I'm a little bit in love with Overrun. And finally, Berserker Slam. 1 Amber gives you an Amber bonus, and when you play it, you deal 4 damage to a flank creature, and if it destroys that creature, its controller loses 1 Amber. Now, to be fair, you could use this to destroy your own flank creature, and then lose an Amber, and then you gain an Amber, lose a creature. Essentially, all that happens is you're taking a creature off the flank, which you might want to do. Get a new creature on the flank, get rid of a creature that's being really annoying. I mean, one of the ones that always struck me as really annoying from Brobnar was Little Rapskull. Creatures must fight when used if able. So you might just want to play this to get rid of Little Rapskull so that you can reap rather than fighting. But most of the time, you want to destroy an opponent flank creature, and then they lose an Amber. And this isn't always going to work. I mean, firstly, your opponent might not have any creatures, so they have no flank creatures. But also, what if their flank creatures all have more than 4 power? Yeah, that will ruin it. That will mean that you, in fact, don't get to do this. Doesn't work. And look, these things happen, alright? There's going to be some turns where it doesn't work. But on the turns where it does work, it's going to be an awful lot of fun. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, those are the new Brobnar cards from Worlds Collide that make you lose Amber. It really is one of the new themes we're seeing from Brobnar in Worlds Collide, so it seemed like the kind of thing we should dig into in a video. But at this stage, I'd like to know what you think about all this. I'd like to know which of these cards do you think look good, which you think look a little bit annoying. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Keyforge and whatever other games take our fancy. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some weekly bonus podcasts and all sorts of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.